All right, here is another episode of the Lilac City Leadership Podcast. And today, believe it or not, another super exciting guest on the show. And it just highlights just how many cool and talented leaders that we have here in the Spokane region. We have none other than Kunal Chopra from the CEO of now Kaspien. So welcome, Kunal.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
And cool story behind Kaspien. For those that aren't following the story quite as closely, this is the company that was founded in Spokane as Green Cupboards, later rebranded as E-Tails, and now earlier this year, if I'm correct, rebranded as Kaspien. And so we have a lot to talk about on that front, and we're excited to dig in.
Well, yeah, it was middle of last year, but yes,
middle of last year. Okay. See, COVID skews my timelines a lot. I think we got 2 years in one there, so 24 months we're all wrapped up into 12, or the other way around, something like that. So, yeah, just thrilled to have you. And
thank you.
Your host and co-host here, James Krejci and
Doyle Wheeler,
and we're excited to dive in.
Yeah, just a precursor this whole podcast. Make sure to check out our most recent podcast with Tom Simpson. You might get some backstory about Green Cupboards and its starting. So,
he is the founder,
yeah.
One of the founders.
Yeah, so this is exciting.
And a fun little fact, as we're recording today on June 24th, we actually earlier today recorded the session with Tom. So coincidentally, that's how it worked out.
Yeah.
Pretty fun.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, good to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Excited to talk more.
Good deal.
So Kunal, kind of give us your journey and how you came up through life and landed here at Kaspien.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Mumbai in India, and I grew up there. I grew up in a Indian film family. My father was a producer of Bollywood movies, and so that's how I grew up. But I was a geek. I was just excited by computers. The big company at the time was Microsoft, so was very excited by Bill Gates' vision of having a PC in every home.
Yeah.
And so just fell in love with computers, got my degree in computer engineering, and then wanted to study more beyond that. And so decided to apply to a number of different universities here in the States, and got accepted into Clemson University to get my master's in computer science. I was pretty broke at the time, so Clemson decided to give me a full scholarship, and
Nice.
so borrowed about $10,000 from my uncle, my sister, one-way ticket to the US, and I was here.
Wow.
And that's what really got my journey started in computer science. And so was recruited out to Microsoft, coming full circle from that original dream.
Yeah.
So spent about 6 years there as a software engineer, engineering manager. Then wanted to learn more, wanted to learn a little more about business, wanted to learn a little more about competitive intelligence, value propositions, customers, go-to-market strategy. I was so focused on engineering that all those other aspects were missing for me.
Yeah.
So went and got an MBA from the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business. Also worked as director of product at Groupon at that time, a marketplace company. Then finished that for a period of time, came back to the Seattle area and got a job as the chief operating officer for a startup in Seattle called Unicorn.
Okay.
From there, general manager of Amazon, general manager of Microsoft, really a lot of business experience in both retail, technology, marketplaces. And then one day got a call from an executive recruiter saying, hey, there's a CEO job at E-Tails. Are you interested? And that's what really got me going here.
That's cool. So, curiosity, when you were an engineering manager, did you think of any of the kind of leadership concepts the way that you would today? Or did that really evolve
very different.
over time?
Evolved over time. It was very different at the time. I was a lot of my focus was very middle tier, mid-level manager sort of work, running a small team of people, 4 or 5 people. But I was also an individual contributor in my role. And so there's a little bit of management, but it was really driving a lot of the individual contributor work.
Okay.
I think true leadership has really come over time through some of these more senior roles as an operating officer, where you lead large teams and especially at Kaspien now with over 150 employees. So it's come through some of these more senior roles.
That's very cool.
We talk a lot about entrepreneurship. Sounds like you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I also certainly that's a part of how I've been, just my career in general. but I was the operating officer for a company called Unicorn in the Seattle area. That was just one hell of an experience, like one of the best experiences I've had in my life.
Interesting.
I was employee number 5 at the company, and we had just raised a $3 million round. And so just building out the product team from scratch, launching their first product to market, doing everything from sales to building the financial model to customer service to marketing strategy. I mean, you get your hands dirty in all these different things as part of a startup. And so I highly encourage people trying to join a startup, or at least working for one, and getting that experience. You're cash strapped, so you learn the discipline of how to manage money well. And so all those experiences have been solid. So yes, there's an aspect of entrepreneur, but I think that entrepreneurship experience of being employee number 5 at a company was life-changing for me personally.
Absolutely. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, good to have that backdrop of what it takes to be on the ground floor and build something up. And that's just, I'm sure, invaluable experience for you.
Yeah, you can learn a lot in business school and theoretical concepts, and there's a great professor that's going to teach you everything. But till you really roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty and experience running a business, starting a business from scratch, it's never going to be the real deal.
Yeah, and it's always a different personality too. Like you bring a different personality of those skill sets. Like a professor teaches his personality
exactly
to 30 people in the room, and over time you get your degree and you're out. But then when you take those tools and go and perform, it becomes your style, your
Absolutely.
personality.
And you learn how to adapt appropriately to your particular situation. It teaches you how to pivot appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different things, as you rightly said. Is just you can make it your own when you actually experience it.
Yeah. I think pivot is the most
It's very
underutilized term in business.
We're pivoting all the time.
Absolutely.
I mean, people always think about pivot as it relates to startups. We pivot all the time at Kaspien. When COVID hit, we pivoted and changed course. The whole concept of our branding was something that we pivoted to. So these are all, the whole concept of pivoting should be, in any company's repertoire, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And every given point of time. I keep saying that, the world is so agile and competitive now. If you don't learn to move quickly and adapt to changing conditions, you're going to lose out.
That's true. Very true. So taking a quick step back, let's talk about the Kaspien's core business and describe what Kaspien is to the marketplace and kind of the role that you fill within the market.
Yeah, so Kaspien, our mission is to optimize and grow brands on today's leading online marketplaces, such as Amazon, Walmart, eBay, Target, among others. And we provide a complete platform of software and tech-enabled services to help brands build their businesses online. So we pretty much serve our brands in 4 different business models. A new one that we introduced, it used to be 3. But our core business is a retail model where we will acquire inventory from a brand and then use our sophisticated technology, our platform, our services to sell your inventory on different marketplaces. We launched an extension to that model called our agency business, where we don't take an inventory position, but we just serve as an extension of your e-commerce team. And we use our services to, again, sell your product online. The third model is a software model. So we've commercialized a lot of our software that we've built in-house into our proprietary technology into software as a service applications. And for brands who want to take their marketplace operations in-house, we serve them with software as well. And then we launched a new model to our business, which is called brand acquisitions, where we are also acquiring brands completely now and controlling the entire value chain.
No kidding. Wow.
So wherever you are in your journey, whether you're starting off trying to sell wholesale, whether you just need an agency partner, whether you're looking for access to software, whether you're trying to exit and sell your company, we are there along your entire journey. So that's how we really fit into the overall marketplace ecosystem. And we position ourselves as a comprehensive and a one-stop shop and a very customizable platform related to what your goals are as a business.
No kidding. And talk about a diversification of revenue too, and being able to serve just about anybody in their life cycle.
Absolutely. Diversification is a key part of how we operate Kaspien. So there's always going to be a restriction on how much inventory we take from a brand, only because there's risk associated with taking an inventory position, etc.
Yeah.
And so, but we still want to serve the brand, but there could be other business models to serve them through, using agency, software, et cetera, et cetera. And so diversification on the front end, but there's also diversification on marketplaces. We used to be very Amazon focused, but now we're diversifying into Target, into Walmart, into We're also experimenting with some direct to consumer. So there's some experiments going on as well internally. Diversification on the supply chain on the back end. We're not just focused on fulfillment by Amazon. We have our own warehouse in Spokane. We are working with different third-party logistics providers. So we're taking a very diversified approach across all these different dimensions with the core goal of trying to serve the brand.
Wow, that's really cool. And you're here at the helm, and that's this is probably kind of like asking you about your kids, but which one of those services is your favorite?
Oh wow, that is a tough one. So there are two important services, and everything else sits in the middle of those two. The first one is called advertisement management. Just driving traffic to all our listings and managing the ad spend appropriately and trying to drive, the most appropriate and accretive revenue for our brand. So that's one piece. And then the other piece is our supply chain sophistication. Managing inventory, ordering, reordering, reforecasting, pricing appropriately. So those are the two extremes of back-end supply chain and then advertisement, and there's a lot in the middle. So I have to let me narrow down to those two first. It's one of those two for sure. Then it's a tough choice between. So just given that I'm a software engineer by heart and I would pick the back-end because the brain behind everything is really the back-end infrastructure, which is supply chain
part. Yeah.
So that's a piece of software called Neptune. That's what we call it internally.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm glad you gave an actual answer to that. A lot of people punt on that, so I like the actual answer. That's cool.
I like them all. No. Neptune. Yeah. Without Neptune, we would be nowhere. Let me put it that way.
Nice. It's cool.
So then all of this kind of folds into e-tails being rebranded as Kaspien, and kind of give us the nuts and bolts of how and why that happened.
Yeah, so Transworld Entertainment used to be the parent company of e-tails. Mm-hmm. And Transworld Entertainment used to also own another brand called FYE, For Your Entertainment. And we decided to divest FYE earlier last year and solely focus on e-tails as our primary focus as part of Transworld Entertainment.
Okay.
So our focus was going to be on e-commerce only and not focus on Transworld Entertainment. So now we have this Transworld Entertainment brand, and then we have e-tails. And so we knew that we wanted to combine and merge those two brands into one brand at least, and try to talk to the market about what our new focus would be. So rebranding was the right way for us to go, just so that there was no confusion in the market on what e-tails is, what Transworld Entertainment is, and get the market away from the focus of Transworld as a brick and mortar FYE-like brand only. So that was number one.
Okay.
Then the question is, well, now what should we brand to? And so our marketing team, we did all this branding in-house, right? From the logo design, the name, everything. So our marketing team this was not outsourced. It was done completely here by our team in Spokane. And so just kudos to the entire team, I must tell you.
No kidding.
We've got so much feedback from people saying that this had to be done by a professional organization. And I keep telling people, no, it was done by a bunch of folks sitting here in the Spokane offices.
You're saying, we are professional.
And
so
we are absolutely professional. And so what we wanted to do as part of the brand was, one, keep an element of the ocean alive. And that was because e-tails, I don't know if you know, but e-tails had an aspect of the ocean within its branding. The founder, Josh Neblett, from who's in Spokane as well, he had an element of the ocean as part of the brand. So we wanted to keep the same bluish theme and some sort of ocean-like feel to the brand. So that was number one. And the other two, we wanted some parallel to Amazon. And so the Amazon is the biggest jungle, Caspian is the biggest sea out there.
Oh yeah.
So just the merge of the Caspian Sea, similar to the Amazon jungle, keeping that whole bluish theme alive from the original. It felt like the right extension for us.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
You're speaking Doyle's language here with graphic branding and all that. The
story sells more than the logo.
That's right.
Guarantee it.
Yes, I'm with you. Yeah, we've got a very powerful creative team here in Caspian, and we've put a lot of attention in our marketing, and you just see our website and everything too. It's very well done.
Yeah.
It's good.
I imagine from a leadership perspective too. I mean, this is kind of like being able to turn the page, and not that the history of the company is not important, but that you are able to reset what the company looks like from that point forward. And because you've evolved as a company, the brand also matches that. So
Absolutely. And the branding also came at a pivotal point when we were when we were changing our strategy. So originally eTails was just a third party retailer on Amazon. So that first pillar that I was talking about, retail only. But as we pivoted into agency, brand acquisitions, omni-channel, it just made sense the branding would just flow with what that new future of Kaspien is.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. And then I don't want to miss either that amidst all this, you were also appointed as the is it chief principal officer of the holding company as well?
That's right. Yes. So I was hired to be the CEO of eTails, but as part of the divestiture of FYE, I was promoted to CEO of Transworld.
CEO. Okay. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
officially it's called as per the SEC filings, it's called principal executive officer. But yes, it's CEO.
Well,
there.
congrats on that.
Thank you.
Lots of exciting things happening.
Our ticker symbol changed too, by the way. It used to be, I think it was called TWE or something.
Okay.
But it's now KSPN. That's what we trade on the Nasdaq.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow. And so, in your mind, knowing the history of how the company was started versus maybe just a couple of years ago before you arrived, what are some of the similarities between that evolution and the evolution that you're undertaking now?
Look, we've tried to keep the culture of the company pretty alive, you know, and the entrepreneurial aspect that existed at Kaspien or eTails at the time, we didn't want to change that. So we wanted to keep a part of that culture alive, and we believe it's very important in the field that we are in as well, which is retail, which is very fast-paced, and there's a lot going on, across the board all the time. And so just having a very entrepreneurial culture to be able to pivot quickly, to be able to be agile, adapt, etc., was very important. So we kept that piece alive. What we've added to Kaspien is we've brought in more industry talent in. So what was missing in the company was there were just not very senior people from the industry, just like myself. Right? Like I came in with some experience that could really help take the talent, take the ideas, and then hone it into a certain direction and try to get it to a particular outcome, for example.
Yeah.
And so moving from a chaotic startup of sorts into a little more mature company by adding some industry talent, adding some structure in place, but still keeping the core elements of the entrepreneurship alive was really how we started thinking about the world. So our head of HR comes from the industry. Brock, who's our CFO, comes from Goldman Sachs. Our head of our CTO comes from ADP. So we've gotten some folks from outside to come in and complement the existing culture of the company. That was the big difference.
Yeah.
Right.
That says a lot for the company as a whole that they were willing to come to be here to do their work, because
Absolutely.
those are big names you just drew in.
Absolutely. No, people are excited. Look, we are in a hot space in general.
Yeah.
E-commerce, the penetration of e-commerce relative to total retail, that percentage continues to go up. With COVID, that certainly accelerated in a big way as well. So, not our total addressable market is in the trillions. Like globally, if you think about retail is big. It's all around us, right? So e-commerce is big. It's all around us. So everyone is excited about the space.
Yeah.
And I think we've done a good job of trying to position ourselves well in this space and have found a really nice niche where we can truly serve brands through these multiple business models. I think that message has been exciting to a lot of people and to the company as well. So everyone's excited to be part of this journey.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
So one thing, I'm just going to jump into this.
Yeah.
I'm nerding out with you. So
I like it.
One thing, when I explain to people, like, what can you get?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, one thing I explained to people about green cupboards and the journey forward is back in the day, we were shoulder to shoulder, and I saw it grow up into what it is today, and a grown adult. Anyway, so when I explained to people, they're like, "Well, it's Amazon." I'm like, "Well, it's more than that." So I don't think people really have grasped the idea that Target, Walmart, etc., is at the pace of growth that Amazon is. I mean, Amazon is the shining star because it's they're making headlines with the billions.
Right.
But Target, I'm willing to bet Target and Walmart e-commerce style is probably in the same ballpark, just less money.
Yeah, I mean, the way we think about it is, if you think about the top 10, say, marketplaces out there, Amazon, say, controls 60%, right, of that. But then someone controls the remaining 40. Now, that's not Walmart, but if you aggregate the others, they add up to the remaining 40. But that's an entire opportunity that shouldn't be missed out as well.
Right.
So, by being able to present our brands on Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Wayfair, all these other players that also have their own customer base, that's an opportunity that we want to also take advantage of.
Yeah.
Like our real goal with our brands is how can we put you in front of in places where your customers are shopping. So if your customers are on Amazon, we want you to be there. But your customers are also going to be on Walmart and Target. So how do we get you in front of them as well?
Yeah.
So we just want to put our brands in front of where their customers are. And that, to me, is also the definition of what a brand is. Brand is how and where can I experience you as a, and that's going to happen across the board. It's not going to happen only on Amazon.
Exactly. Yeah. It's interesting. This could be a whole nother episode.
It's an exciting time, e-commerce and
don't even get me. We can talk about digitally native brands, direct to consumer, completely separately.
Yeah, and that's what's really special about e-commerce, and specifically Target and Walmart. There's a huge misconception that what you see in the stores is that's the only things they sell online. There's a way bigger perspective of what you can buy on the internet from those retailers based
Absolutely.
off of their name. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the internet at some level, right? Is that it's an unlimited catalog. You can literally put all your SKUs up there. I mean, I was just looking at the data from Joann's, which is, the store out there. I mean, and just in Joann's, they have, I think, they said they have about 90,000 SKUs in store, and then they have 250,000 SKUs on their website.
Yeah.
So, and this is just, a completely random brand like Joann's, but that's the kind of scale you can get. You can't put all those 250,000 SKUs in store, but you can put them online.
Right. That's impressive.
From a leader, I keep going off track here, but from a leadership perspective, I was watching Pier 1. So what would your advice be to somebody that is not making the decision to go full on e-commerce with their company? I'm talking like, okay, so Pier 1 equal to Target was a retail brick and mortar.
Right.
They started a website, they started selling their own products, and then everything else. Clearly, Pier 1 missed the mark. So what would to the listener in this podcast, what would your encouragement be from a leadership perspective to get that pivot mentality for whatever there is in life, but specifically in your business?
Yeah, see, my view is very simple. You start with the customer in mind. And when you start with the customer in mind, you should always think about where are your customers going to experience you? Where are they going to shop your products and services? If you mistakenly assume that that's only going to be in the store, then you're making a big mistake. But if you know your customer well, you probably will understand that your customer for your product is now looking on TikTok, and they are looking at stuff on Instagram, and they are looking at stuff on Amazon, and they're searching on Google. And if you're not there in all these different channels, you're missing out on an opportunity. And when you miss out on that opportunity, guess who's going to come in? Another competitor is going to steal all your market share. And so I just encourage folks listening to this podcast that you've got to really understand your customer, understand what their journey is, and then are you present with your value proposition, your products along their journey? And so the more you do that, the answer will probably be very obvious that they're probably shopping online, so you should be there online.
Thank you.
So.
I think the speed of lost market share in today's world is pronounced too. I mean, you can lose market share in a blink of a pandemic.
Yep.
And anything else in a blink of an anything. It just happens so quickly.
And some of the brands that did survive pretty well, brands, retailers, etc., that survived well during the pandemic were quick to pivot quickly, right? They were able to move from their stores to online. Within online, they could move from B2B to B2C, whatever that pivot was. So being able to be very agile in your operations, I think, is very critical for any company, irrespective of your size.
Love it.
It's awesome.
So Kunal, you have a paintbrush and you're painting on a canvas your personal leadership style. What does that picture look like?
I love this. I don't know if I can paint
like
it.
Mona Lisa, or
I can see you painting it with your eyes.
Starry Night.
No. My leadership style would be painted as probably a bunch of people. And the reason I say that is my leadership style is in one word can be described as inclusion. Like, I'm a very, very firm believer in inclusion. And what that means to me is, we make decisions as a group together. and it's not about me telling you what to do. We collectively make decisions. And I strongly believe there's a lot of power in collective decision making. We can get to outcomes faster, no doubt about it, but then people are also motivated. Imagine me coming to you and telling you what to do. Are you really going to be excited about going back to your desk and executing when, you know, my boss told me to do this, even though I don't want to really do it? But if you were involved in the decision and you were part of that and you contributed to that, then you're more excited about going and executing. So there's a motivational advantage outside of the data advantage that we all have the same data and now we can go and make this decision effectively. So yes, there's a lot of power in inclusion, and that's really just my leadership style at a very high level.
That's neat.
Standing ovation.
Exactly.
Right. I love it.
Well, I just had kind of an epiphany that there's a lot of bad CEOs out there, and I think they may be misinterpreting what the role actually is, right? I mean, they think of it as, I'm the CEO, I am the dictator of my company, and everyone needs to listen to what I tell them to do. And it just hit me. It was so clear when you were talking there that the role of a CEO is not that. The role of CEO is to cultivate those ideas and a well-rounded framework for decision making.
You're always going to find that the best ideas are not going to come from me. And trust me, they don't come from me. They come from people. So my job is really to give people a platform to be able to execute on those ideas and create a culture of execution. And I do that a lot, and we do that in Kaspien a lot, is just give people the thinking space, the support, the resources they need to go and execute on their ideas.
Yeah.
And so that comes through inclusive decision making, etc., that we've talked about. It is certainly the job of the CEO is certainly not to tell people what to do, because they're going to just leave.
Yeah.
Trust me.
This is our final episode of the Lilac City Leadership Podcast. We've captured the essence of leadership already here. We don't need to go any further.
Kunal just wrote the book.
Thank you.
No, that was very eye-opening.
But I'll say something else though on that, because I get excited about this, as you can imagine, is I get some pushback on this sometimes, right? Because I tell people a lot about like inclusive leadership, etc. And I get some pushback saying, well, but you know, your job should really be to tell people what to do. You're the CEO, like you mentioned, and you know, people just want to get behind what you're doing. And yes, maybe to some extent, there's an aspect of like they're looking for strategy and, you know, where are we going? There's that vision. You've got to outline a path to where we're going, but the execution doesn't come from you. It comes from them. Like you can lay the vision for them, you can communicate to them, excite them about the future, but they're really going to be executing for you.
And motivating that execution, you're saying, comes from including them in that process.
Exactly. If you just come to them one day with a decision and said, well, you know, this is what we're going to do. You guys have to go hit X amount of revenue for us this month or next quarter. Who's going to be excited about that?
Yeah.
But if they're part of that decision and we collectively decide that this is the amount of revenue we're going to drive collectively this month or this quarter, then we're all excited about it.
I have to pause for a minute because I've been thinking about this honestly for a number of years, and you know, you think about a sales role in particular, that can be the essence of that particular topic. Is most of the time salespeople are given a quota and they're told to go meet that quota, and so I'm trying to sort out in my head that example of how do you get somebody excited about going toward that, right? I mean, it's not exciting unless they're part of it.
Unless they're part of it. In fact, a better approach to that exact problem would be, here's where we want to go as a company. Like that's the direction I'm going to give my salespeople. Here's how I see the market opportunity for us. Can you guys, let's all work together and figure out how can we make this happen. James, can you sell like 10 of these units? Oh yeah, I can do that. I think I can get this one. Actually, I think I can get 20, you know. And Mary comes in and says, oh, Kunal, I think we can go after this territory and we can get another 20. All right, great. We're going to get 20 from there. We're going to get 20 from here. And now we're collectively discussing how to make that goal work.
Yeah.
Now that's a much more powerful message than just saying, well, James, you've got 20 to do. You're involved in that decision-making process, and collectively we're figuring out how do we get to that goal.
Yeah. That's amazing.
The most cringeworthy statement I ever get in my professional career is, we want to go big, but we don't have a budget.
Right.
Oh, my word, facepalm. I'm like, I don't know what to do here. I'm not exactly sure how. But today, this happened again, and we sat down, the group of us, so we're going to work on it. And I'm like, zero budget, all work. What are we going to do without saying a word? And all three of us, we just laid it out there. We stewed on it for a minute, and within a half hour, we have a stellar plan that doesn't cost any money,
right.
and it puts art on the table, and I can't wait to see it happen. Anyway, I'm kind of getting off the rails here, but it was just the fact that this was impossible.
Right.
We can't do this. We shouldn't do this.
Right.
But within a half hour of just a simple collaboration, full transparency, 3 people from 3 different points in the business came together and made something super exciting. I mean, I don't know if the client will approve it, but it was.
There you go.
Yeah.
But that's a point on collaboration, on inclusiveness, and then how do you make something happen?
Yeah. Now we have a model. Mm-hmm. We have a model, a path forward for that similar situation.
Right.
And it's so good. If it doesn't go through for one client, we can use it on another.
Perfect.
Super exciting. I
love
it. It's just like, this is actually happening in real life.
Right.
So it's not like Kunal is just bringing out something brand new. Kunal is living what leadership is.
Yeah, we just, look, people talk a lot about inclusion. We practice it a lot. And it's part of our culture here. And, it's showing some of the results that we've seen.
Do you feel like transparency and making yourself vulnerable is probably more important than giving direct leadership?
100%. Transparency is so important. And, people want to connect with you as a leader. And they want to know that you are one of them, as opposed to there's a difference between the CEO and the rest of us. And you can't get on the same page with them unless you're vulnerable and you're transparent and you communicate to your employees like they're one of your own. And so we do that at Kaspien too, very transparent about everything. But I have a employee town hall once every 2 weeks, which is literally just like this. We're all just in one room. These days it's on Zoom or on Teams. Yeah. But it's just an open forum for us to talk about anything. Like literally people come in with questions. They ask me tough questions. I'm there to celebrate victories with them. It is not a formal affair at all. It's just one example of how we just communicate very openly at Kaspien and just keep it very raw and live.
Right. So why do people in leadership roles often lack transparency? I mean, there's almost this, we don't want to tell the people all of the behind the scenes information because of X. I don't know why that is necessarily.
Yes, it baffles me sometimes. I can see there could be there's always sometimes some regulatory issues as it relates to, like, there are some financials that you probably don't want to share with everyone as it relates to your stock or trading windows, like some of that.
Right.
But outside of that, I just don't see why you shouldn't be transparent with your company on everything happening.
Yeah.
You can certainly tailor the message to appropriate employees. For example, you don't want to go to your front-end employees and show them the P&L every time and try to, but you can tailor the message of the P&L in a language that they would really understand.
Right.
And so being able to communicate that message to every employee, irrespective of where they are, very transparently and being vulnerable, I just don't see why leaders don't do more of that. And they should. I encourage them to. Give it a shot.
It may be a misconception of the whole information is power. If I hold on to this and I'm the only one that knows it, I can.
Well, then that's somehow insecurity speaking.
Yeah,
that's a classic example of a manager will not share stuff with his or her employee, or
out of fear
of losing their job, or that's just insecurity speaking.
Yeah.
If knowledge is power, share it all.
Share it all. If your employees do a better job, then you're the one who's going to take credit for that at some level sometimes.
It's reflective
of you and your leadership and the results that you drove. And so it should be in your best interest to give them what they're looking for so they can do a better job for you.
Exactly.
Love it.
Exactly. So effective leadership styles, you kind of had a point in your career where this may have happened. You're an engineering manager, and then there's this shift into more focused leadership. Do you think that comes more from experiences that you're gathering, or more from starting to educate yourself, reading different material, or is it a balance? Is it a blend?
My opinion is that it's a blend. So you want to educate yourself through courses and books and podcasts and trainings and learnings. You want to be on top of the latest. But that only gets you so like similar to the point we made on, me getting an MBA versus applying it in an actual startup. But then how do you apply that? And so you've got to find opportunities to apply what you're learning in your job or in your community or wherever you are in a leadership position. I think people miss some of that other aspect of things. And, either they'll want to learn on the job, which is also fine, but then there's also some really good stuff through content, etc., that you can really glean from others as well. But then how do you apply it is, I think, very critical. Yeah. So it's really a balance in my view.
That's a good point. It kind of bakes in when you can actually have an experience with what you've learned. It bakes it in, makes it personal to you.
Absolutely. Like, in this whole brand acquisition space, this is a good example. It's less about leadership, but it's brand acquisitions. Now, Kaspien has never done M&A or done major acquisitions. This is the first time that we're doing it. So we're all learning. We're all taking courses on how to do M&A properly. We're reading books about it. We all are doing it together, but then we're also applying it in the real world. Yeah. Right. So we are learning from the best, but then also trying to apply it in a real deal and trying to go through that entire process and then pivot and learn, where we should change and adapt that online course there to something real.
Well, they say you shouldn't work harder, work smarter. I think smart people work hard.
Right, exactly. There you go. I love it.
But yeah, that example too, as you and your team learning the M&A space together.
Exactly.
There you go, inclusiveness again.
Yeah. Inclusiveness, right? We are part of the process together, and I'm learning along with you as well. That's the kind of message. And then you get the vulnerability going, saying like, I'm not the know-it-all. Yeah. I'm learning along with all of you, and let's do it together.
Nobody's afraid to raise their hand and say, hey, this idea seems better to me or different. Yeah.
Exactly.
Really powerful.
Streamlines process.
Absolutely.
So you were brought in CEO of eTails at the time as an external hire.
That's right.
And what are the pros and cons of external hires versus internal hires?
Yeah,
particularly maybe in the quote unquote C-suite, I guess.
Yeah, it all depends on the company and its evolution at a very high level. Now, in Kaspien's case, it would have served us very well through an external hire, only because of the things that I mentioned earlier. There was a very entrepreneurial culture. The company was at a stage where it needed a little more structure, kind of move it from a startup to a public company. And an external hire there who has been there, done that, who has had the experiences would really help balance out what the company already has.
Right.
So it makes sense in this particular case. Now, there could be other cases where, it's already a mature company, for example, and, the CEO wants to step down, and then there's another hire internally that's ready to take on that role, and it's someone who's been trained on for a period of time.
Right.
So I think it just depends on where the company is in its evolution and what they're looking for. And either case, there's no pros and cons in either case. It just depends on where they are, in my opinion.
Gotcha. And coming in as an external hire as a CEO, what are you doing in your first 90 days to really acclimate and also get that group of employees to really trust?
Yeah, that's a good question, because in Kaspien, and I'll give you Kaspien's case specifically, like my 90 days was really, the first month was all about what's our vision? Like, where are we going here? I wanted to really focus on painting a picture of, what does this future look like for us?
Right.
And what's the strategy around that future? How are we going to get there? And then the third piece of that was our leadership principles and our values as a company, like getting some groundwork on how are we going to operate and behave every day that will help us facilitate our strategy, which will eventually get us to our vision. So outlining that vision, the strategy, and outlining our leadership principles was very critical to ground us all on before we went and started executing.
Okay.
So that was key for me. So that was my first 30 days or so. The next 30 days was really on, I'm a big fan of execution, getting momentum going. It was really, here's a new strategy, let's get a quick win under our belt.
Yeah.
So in fact, we launched one of our flagship products called Ad Manager into, we made one of our software applications, commercialized it. That was part of that original pivot.
Okay.
So I just want to get some quick a quick win out there.
Exactly.
Get a new product out there. Showcase that we're executing on our strategy. Get people excited about this is not just words on the wall. We're going to execute on this strategy as well, and get that going. So momentum was really key. And then the last piece was on the last 30 days was really about changes that we needed to make. By learning from what went well, what didn't go well in our execution over the last 60 days, what should we change? Do we need a new director of product? Do we need this new organization that we need to look at our organization? Do we need to change our processes? So it was like the pivots and the changes that we made from learning. But just getting that basic infrastructure going up front, I think we were able to get some momentum.
Yeah.
So, and I highly encourage people to think about that framework that way, which is, month 1, strategy, month 2, execution, momentum, month 3, pivot, changes, etc.
Yeah.
And get that going.
Then repeat.
And then repeat, right? You re-look at your strategy, re-look at if you need to make pivots, continue to execute, continue to learn. And if you keep that sort of, and I call it a treadmill. Like people here at Kaspien will hear you say that a lot. Kunal keeps talking about the word treadmill. Like what is our treadmill? How are we going to run our business? What is our rhythm of business? And so that's one way of sort of thinking about it.
Gotcha. Yeah. That I think is it plan, do, check, act.
Plan, do, check. Yeah.
There you
go. There you go.
Framework. So
similar framework. Yes.
I want my treadmill 0 incline, 10 speed.
I like that.
Just the good
Just
old
go,
marathon.
Just go.
But,
There you go. You got to stop and breathe a little though.
Then when it gets to 15 incline, we have to pivot.
You have to pivot. There you go.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a bit of a nerd, but it sounds like it would be fascinating to have been a fly on the wall during those first 90 days and just kind of see.
It was fun. We had a lot of fun. Just rolling up our sleeves and you're rethinking strategy, rethinking mission, rethinking vision. Rethinking all those things, and you're at the ground. It's like a new phase for the company, right? So it's a lot of fun.
I'm sure the employees too. The trust part of that is, when they're seeing the execution happen in the second 30, they're like, oh,
exactly.
What we've been talking about and strategizing on is being driven forward, and so I think I can get on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still remember. Now of course we've been working at home, but we used to brainstorm so much more out there. You're just the sales team, marketing team. At the time, we had no sales and marketing funnel, and none of that was in place at that time. So just figuring out from scratch, how should we get our first lead in? What's happening with our lead generation process, and just all those basics we were putting together.
Creativity inspires creativity.
Yes.
We struggled with that too when we had to go home. Well, we didn't have to, I suppose, but we chose to do what we thought was right at the time. And it was like our creativity as a whole, like as a breathing group,
right?
Trying to get accomplishment as a service for our client.
Right.
It just kind of stalled out. It just kind of got normal.
Right.
It wasn't special anymore. And then when we came back, it was like, hey, we could still work remote. That was kind of the attitude. Well, now we know what it's like to have freedom. But that creative vibe just kind of petered out. It wasn't good. And so once we started doing that again, we reinvented ourselves and we came back stronger, which was really good. And we increased our team even better. But just that like I could say it all day long. When we're together, we're more creative. But when we were gone for a while and then came back and saw that it did fall flat,
right? And
then it was motivation to just stick it out. Let's keep going. On summer days, we have summer brain, and it's hard to keep going. But
that's right.
We pay the price for it on Monday if we don't stick it out.
That's right. I agree. I'm with you.
Yeah, so we like to go off script a little bit, Doyle and I. But what's the actual reality of Teams? The environment of working remotely within a platform like Teams versus being actually in person.
It can work, right? It can work totally well, but you have to change your working style.
Okay.
And I encourage people who are working remotely through Teams, Zoom, etc. You are going to collaborate a lot even on Teams. It's a different style of collaborating. But you're also going to be on video calls a lot. And that can be extremely straining to you as a person. It can be extremely demanding on your eyes. And so what we have promoted at Kaspien is this whole concept of work-life integration. And we've told people that you're completely flexible in how you want to work. You can work for 1 hour a day, you can work for 15 hours a day. As long as you deliver results, you should take all the time you need to go and manage your well-being appropriately. So, and we encourage people to have shorter meetings, for example. Like if it's a 1 hour meeting, make it 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Most people have changed that. We encourage people, like if they're working for 2 hours, stop working, go take a break for an hour. Like just don't have a meeting on your calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can still collaborate effectively, maybe missing some aspects of brainstorming on a whiteboard or something,
Sure.
as long as you change the way that you work. And we have been pushing, our HR leader, Lisa, she's been pushing a lot of that to our employees is, work remotely, work on teams, collaborate, but try to follow some of these rules because it'll help you with your well-being, because it can get stressful.
Yeah. And work-life integration, you mentioned that.
Yes.
That's kind of interesting. Let's dive into that a little bit. So
Yes.
Explain that concept to those who may not be familiar.
Yeah, I mean, my personal belief is that we don't work and we don't stop work and then we play. We just live. And, as part of your life, you are contributing to an employer, you are contributing to your family, you are contributing to your community, you are contributing to yourself through personal time.
Yeah.
And that's just part of who you are and what your life is. And if you start drawing these boundaries between all of these different elements and saying, well, I'm only going to work for 8 hours and then I'm going to play, you are missing out on an opportunity to live your life to the fullest across the entire 24 hours that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I call that is work-life integration. Just integrate all these elements into your life. So we at Kaspien promote that a lot. In fact, today we had our employee town hall and our HR leader said exactly this to the company, saying, I want to remind you all that you can work from the coffee shop, you can work in the office, you can work from home.
Yeah.
You can work 1 hour a day or you can work 15 hours a day. Do whatever it takes for you to be happy. And just know that. And just know that you don't have to come to work at 8 o'clock. You don't have to be online at 9 o'clock. You don't have to respond to an email in the night. Like none of that matters in a modern way of operating. And so we promote that of how, and we call that work-life integration.
Right.
So how does that feel to you? So I think I want to do that, but
Right.
it's hard to let go of the normal. And I know that the Industrial Revolution promoted the 3 ways to happiness, which was 8 hours of awake to be with family and life, 8 hours
Right.
to sleep, and 8 hours to work.
Right.
And it feels like that's never stopped. And we're in a modern day and age where this
Right.
can work. This can totally work. So what are your thoughts there? Like, I'm sure when you started in any of your work, there was like, here's when the office is open and you're going to
Right.
be here and do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's happening way too much, and
It
it's
is.
even happening in our offices, and it's hard to let go of the concept that people won't feel secure, or people, I feel like if we have structure, people are feeling secure. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's because I'm insecure with no structure. But what are your thoughts on that as far as a leader goes? Like, how do you empower your people and then find them trustworthy? And by the way, to my team, if you're listening to this, I trust you 100%. This is a good conversation.
I was going to make exactly that comment, which is you have to trust.
Yeah.
If you don't trust your people, they shouldn't be on your team,
That's
irrespective of whether they're sitting at home or they're working in the office. Everything has to come from a place of trust. You've got to fully trust, you've got to empower, you've got to let people drive, you give them direction and let them go and just trust them. Now, of course, you've got to monitor. You've got to keep them accountable towards results. But as long as you have a pulse on what direction you've given them and you're tracking towards those results, you should completely trust and let them go and let them drive.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts there, right? Managers, CEOs, etc. need to create a culture of like, we trust you, mm-hmm. and we are going to hold you accountable to results and not to the amount of time you put in or the work that you put in and the number of hours that you put in or the number of times you log in, etc., etc. It has to come from the top, but it has to start with a place of total trust.
Yeah.
And which is what we promote again. I can keep talking about Kaspien here, but that's what we promote. It comes from a place of trust that we trust you, but we monitor everything.
That's a powerful topic.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time for our 7th inning stretch.
Boom. We love the 7th inning stretch.
That's a good.
Yeah, that's when we
a
get
good
all
segment.
excited and stretched.
Stretch, yeah.
So this is the part of our show where we find out who the real Kunal is outside of work. So we'll just ask you a couple quick questions.
No, he's integrated.
You're
working life.
integrated.
So
There's no work here.
There's
There's no work here.
There's
It's just
no work.
life.
We just get to find out a little bit more.
Yeah. So you're a fresh transplant to Spokane within the last few years. So
Right.
You've probably done more exploring than the locals have. So
I don't know if that is true, to be honest with you, but go ahead.
okay. Some simple, quick, rapid fire questions. Favorite Spokane entertainment?
Ugh. I would say a walk along Kendall Yards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, that's
absolutely
a great one.
Have you gone to the Kendall Yards night market?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
They
super
fired
fun.
those up again, right?
Yeah.
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 Very cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Favorite Spokane neighborhood?
Ooh. I was going to say Kendall Yards again because it is truly my favorite neighborhood. I'm going to say cop out answer, Kendall Yards.
Sounds good. Love it. I think you'll have a lot of people agree with you. Favorite Spokane coffee shop?
Oh, ooh. Honestly, this is going to be very bad, but I only drink one coffee, and that's Starbucks.
Yep. I figured that was going to be the answer.
That's my Seattle roots.
Yeah, it's hard to get away from that when you grow up drinking coffee there.
That's right.
And this question is turning out to be a roller coaster of differences, and I think we're going to have to just do a total countdown on social media with this one. But what's your favorite Spokane restaurant?
Oh,
We get the same response every time. I love this.
I mean, I'm not a big foodie. This one's really tough. But there's one restaurant in Kendall Yards, and I can't get the name out of it. There's this steak place right at the back. I don't know if you guys can. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's a wood fire.
Woodfire.
Yeah.
yeah.
What's the
That's
name
it.
of that? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, yeah, you're
It's
catching
a
me
wood
off
fire.
guard.
What's that? You know, you can
It's a
you
steak.
sit outside
Yeah.
at the back, and you can see the
It's
valley
new.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
We'll
just
have to
one-
research that and put that out there.
Yeah, we'll find
what
out.
the name
Yeah.
of that is. Yeah.
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 I haven't been, so now I'm gonna go.
That is a nice
I
place.
think it's Woodfire. I think I'm supposed to know this. I'm
Okay.
falling flat. I can't remember.
But you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
I know where you're at.
Yeah.
It's where was it Spokane Foods? Spokane.
It's like on the westmost side
Yeah.
of Kendall Yards, basically.
Yeah, it's like right by the visitor center, and you kind of go in behind.
You
and
just
then
go at the back,
You can
yeah.
sit
Yeah.
on the patio and look
Yeah.
outside. Yeah.
Right.
This was a nice plug for Kendall Yards, by the way.
I
Kunal
know.
is all about
I know.
It. I like
Pretty
it.
exciting.
It is.
It's a
It's
great
one of.
place.
It's a great
Yeah.
place. It's one of my favorite places. It's just like very urban, like
Yeah.
my kind of style.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's good. And
Nice.
those places you'll start seeing pop up in Spokane.
Good.
There's more places coming. I've heard that it's coming. I'm sure it will, because I don't know why it wouldn't. We can't be stuck in 1900 for the rest of our life. What do you enjoy most about Spokane so far?
So what I've really loved about Spokane is just the outdoors. And I know even Seattle has a lot of the outdoors and everything, but I just love the outdoors here.
Yeah.
Like just the walks, the trails, the mountains. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I've just enjoyed that aspect of Spokane a lot.
Absolutely.
It's
That's
funny
awesome.
because I lived in Seattle for a lot longer, but I have utilized the outdoors a lot more here relative to when I was in Seattle, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's
It's
nice.
easier to access.
Easier
here.
to
I mean, you
access.
can be there in a flash, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
can be there in 5 minutes
5
Yeah.
minutes.
to a
yeah.
hike or something. Yeah.
Right.
Very cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think soon here we're going to have a rundown on social media of our guests' favorite restaurants. It's going to be pretty cool.
good. Then we got to get that
It
name.
won't be a top whatever. It'll be, this is who said it. So you're called out.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, and the problem with the late afternoon podcast episode is we always get to that question, and then it's like, man, my stomach.
Oh, we got to
I'm
eat.
so hungry.
That's right. That's right.
So anyway, kind of final parting thoughts. Where is your kind of number one source for leadership inspiration?
So I don't take inspiration from sort of one particular person of sorts,
Yeah.
right? I try to look at, I get leadership inspiration from everywhere, and then I try to make it my own. And I think that's the big difference in maybe how others learn and apply, and the way I learn and apply. I am never going to be a carbon copy of someone else.
Yeah.
But there are certain elements of a particular leader that I might like. There are certain elements of this particular leader that I might like. There are certain elements of my employees that I might like, and I might want to adapt to them. So I learn even from them.
Yeah.
So it's really collecting aspects of the good aspects of leadership from everyone around me, and then trying to make it my own. So there's no one particular source, I would say. It's just picking nuggets from everywhere and trying to make it my own.
How cool is that? Taking
Awesome.
leadership nuggets from your employees. I mean, that is like
I learn a
hadn't
lot
even
from
thought
them.
of that.
I learn
Yeah.
a lot from them, from my executive team, from my employees. They teach me things every day.
Wow,
That's good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
This has been such an intriguing and introspective episode. I think that I know our listeners are going to get a lot of value. So, Kunal, it's been a pleasure to have you on the Lilac
Thank
City
you.
Leadership Podcast. And again, this is James Krejci,
Doyle Wheeler.
and we're the guys that host this thing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. It's been an inspiring ride so far. More to
Exactly.
come.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.